Hello everybody, welcome to Red Tool House. On our YouTube channel we talk about all things homesteading and try to implement some of those things in our rural 100 acres here in southern West Virginia. Well, today we are working on a project that's it's a project out of necessity, and I apologize for it being dark. See, Kelly is here in the closet slash pantry. This is the kind of tight quarters here, but this was the pantry just off our kitchen. And of course, pantry, you store food and things, so it's basically a closet. And we had, when we first built the house, we put the ever so popular wire rack shelving in there to hold all of our food and whatnots, dry goods. But as we've got more into canning and other things and stocking up more on food, then we realized that these wire shelves weren't going to handle it. In fact, I don't know if you can see that, how bent up that is. That is where they kind of gave up the ghost. So we are in the process of redoing this. Kelly's repainting because she loves painting, don't you, Kel?
No.
Yes, you do. You love it. Love it more than I do.
I'm the only one that'll do it.
So we're going to paint it, and then we're going to build a kind of a custom shelf system in there that's going to be able to handle all the weight of the canned goods. So we'll document this as we go along. Again, we've talked about doing more projects. This is not necessarily homesteading related specifically, but if you do have a lot of canned goods, or you're going to can more, then you need to plan on typical household shelving not handling all the weight from that. So we'll detail as we go along. Okay, so the first step, of course, was to draw out what we needed. The issue we have with our pantry is it's like a closet. So we wanted to do a built-in, come down to the wood shop and build a built-in that we could slide back in there, but we can't slide anything back in there because the door opening, of course, is smaller than the actual pantry opening. So we've got to make something that we can take up in pieces, stick inside the door opening and assemble that way. So things that I would do one way, we're going to have to do another. But we basically want to draw up, we took our piece of paper and we drew up a shelf system. We wanted to go up 36 inches and put a countertop in. That way Kelly could store her KitchenAid mixer, our popcorn popper, some other things that are the larger appliances that we want to get out of the kitchen. Below that would be some of our heavier items, canned goods. Kelly's been doing a lot of canning here, so the like the chicken broth canning, jellies, those type of things that we do, want to be able to store those on those shelves. So the heavier items below that. And then just like you'd have a kitchen countertop, you go up about, what are we going up, 17 inches?
19, I think.
Going up 19 inches and then starting another series of shelves. So basically building bookcases is how I would look at it. But we made this countertop, and what we did is I had an old piece of spalted maple. And spalted just means it started to... some fungus is built up in a little bit. That sounds kind of gross, but it's just a wood fungus that builds up. Put some streaks in it. It was wormy maple, so it had all kinds of little worm holes in it. Yes, we evicted all the worms. At least that's what I tell her. If you see a worm or two, it's no big deal. No. But I had this long board that was about 1.5 inches thick, and it's been laying around forever. But it had a natural edge on it. And that was one thing that she wanted, was a countertop with a natural edge on the face. So I thought, well, let's see if we can get that out. So, of course, broke it down, found my natural edge that I wanted to use as the face, and then did a large glue up. And with our glue ups, of course, we clamp and use wood glue and use that clamping pressure to make those parts stick. But because of the natural edge, I couldn't clamp directly to the natural edge without damaging that edge. So I had to screw a sacrificial board. So there's a piece of pine that I screwed to that that the clamp would then clamp onto and allow us to get that clamping pressure. So we've got 3 pieces here, and it has a lot of wormy texture to it. It's a very textured countertop. The natural edge turned out pretty good. Kelly put is this espresso? Espresso stain. Is that the direction you were going, or do you want to go another direction?
Well, I thought we picked up walnut, but we got espresso.
Walnut espresso. Yeah.
A little darker than what I
imagined.
Exactly.
It's dark. So yeah, this maple really took out, which I like the darker stain simply because a spalted maple can sometimes have a lot of gray in it. This is a red maple, or what you consider a soft maple. It's not a sugar maple or a hard maple. So those tend to get kind of gray and and the spalting either is gray or is kind of even a nasty yellow instead of that nice creamy color that you see with a sugar maple. So I think the dark stain was a good choice. You got a little bit of a smiley face to it. We gotta take out. That's the problem with a wet wood shop or a damp wood shop. As things dry out, sometimes they take off. So we got a little cheat on that we'll work on. So 36 inches is our maximum width we want to go with. That's the inside of that pantry closet. It's 36 inches wide. So that's what I went with on the width of this countertop. And we're actually going to make the base and the top shelf just a little bit narrower, simply because we want to have some freedom to stick that in there and assemble it. Well, what I would normally do, again, this is like building a bookcase, but we're really building a pantry shelves, but they're pretty much the same. So to have that strength to handle the weight of a lot of canned goods or various sundries, yeah, appliances and those things, then I wanted to go with a engineered material. I wanted to go with a plywood. So we picked an oak veneer ply, and of course around here where we are, even though we're in hardwood country, we have very few options when it comes to veneered plywood. So we went to the box store and purchased their oak veneer plywood, which was how much?
$55 a sheet.
$55 a sheet, and we needed 3 sheets. I got 3 sheets all right. So $55 a sheet for red oak veneer 3/4 inch plywood. That hurt. So we're going to put these shelf supports here that will screw in, and then of course a shelf will sit on top of those, and then we can screw up from the bottom. So we're going to have a little bit of logistics still in putting that together, but that will be our means of holding those shelves in place. Again, not the ideal situation, but it'll allow us to assemble it easier, because we can actually put those on one side, set the shelf in place, and screw the other ones in while the boards are in place. So it allows us to assemble there on the fly. That's the plan, at least. And then the other thing we're going to do, just because we don't want to have, with using veneer plywood, you don't want to have this plywood edge. So obviously this exposed edge is what's going to face the outside of the pantry. So every time Kelly goes in to get some chicken broth or some popcorn, she's going to be like, oh man, I hate the look of that unfinished plywood. We're going to avert that crisis. And I've taken some white oak that I've ripped down, 1/4 inch thick, and we're just going to face that. So this white oak is actually right at 3/4 inch. This plywood, of course, isn't right at 3/4 inch. That's how they cheat you as well. They make it smaller than that. So we're going to face that. So it's like using a veneer, but instead of using the tape veneer that you iron on or you glue on or all that crap, and it comes off after you bump it one time, which I hate, then we're kind of making our own veneer. That's the beauty of having a lot of oak laying around. So I've ripped down a bunch of oak here. That's what's on our table saw. Our shelf supports are here on the other side. So we're going to start putting it all together. So we got our shelf brackets on there, shelf braces, and both sides. We even did a dry fit to make sure that we could get our shelf pieces down in there once it was assembled, since we know we don't have much width inside the pantry. So again, simple brackets. Now we're going to put the veneer on. And what I like to do with the veneer is I always start long, since I'm using longer material, and go ahead and glue and brad nail. And then I come back after it dries, and I take my little Japanese cutoff saw, a very flexible saw, and I just cut those all flush. And that gives me a super clean edge, because I can lay that blade right against the surface of this edge and cut, and we're in good shape. So we're going to put a liberal application of glue. As my uncle always said when he taught me woodworking, don't be afraid of the glue. Apply it liberally and abradeth not. Right, Kel? And we're going to make sure we stick our hands in the glue as much as possible. actually cut this piece of white oak is exactly 3/4 inches thick, or wide, 1/4 inch thick. And the plywood is a cat's whisker under. So I like that because it gives me just a little bit of an edge. Just a little bit of an edge to be proud. And it keeps, not enough to be an issue, but it keeps the veneer looking cleaner. And with the plywood being the crap plywood that it is, allows me to hide some veneer issues with that plywood. And we'll pull out any little warps we have. It's in the bone. No, that's good. Okay. I'll correct this squeeze out. Camera lady, could you hand me the towel there? So Kelly's putting stain on all the pieces. We got the shelf brackets in place, got the veneer on, got a couple left, last the top shelves to veneer, and then we'll be ready to put it all together. Actually, we're going to polyurethane, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to put a coat of poly on everything, so that'll have to be another day. Wait for all this to set up. All right, we're in the home stretch here. My finish is cured. I didn't really put a heavy finish on this. I just want a protective coat, and there's gonna be a lot of scratching, a lot of abrasive, and it's going in the closet, so it's not like I'm building a clock here. Not that I'm slouching on quality, it's just why put a fine polish on something when it's going to get scuffed up. Like, we just want to protect it, keep the stain on. So now the next trick is to cut this extended trim off. We have this veneer that I faced this with, this 1/4 inch oak, so just need to cut that off flush. And you can use a flush cut trim saw. I have this one, it's been around the block a bit. You can see there. And the neat thing about that is it has no set in its kerf, in its teeth. So what that means is basically the little saw teeth are not bent out any to make the cut width wider than the metal. And the reason why saws do that, of course, is to keep from getting bound. This one is very flexible. It can give you a little bit of issue, so usually you do a back cut with it. But the neat thing about it is it's really, really flexible. So if I was cutting a dowel rod, then I could literally bend this and cut it flush, or if there's anything proud there I really wanted to cut flush, I could use that. And same here, I could just hold it against this side of the plywood and be able to get a nice flush cut. Know by experience that's going to take a little bit longer and be a little bit tougher, so I'm going to go to a little bit heavier of a saw, and this is a saw out of an old miter box. You can see it has the rigid spine here, so that keeps it from flexing, and it has just a little bit of set in it, so I'm not really worried about that. We're still going to get a nice flush cut there, so it just allows me to get through it quicker. This oak, even though it's only 1/4 inch, is still a decent thing to cut through. And you may be wondering, do I patina all of my saw blades like Bob Ross, the painter, used to, so the lights wouldn't reflect in the camera? No. Patina comes naturally down here in the wood shop. This is a very dark, damp wood shop, so natural patina I get, so that bugs me sometimes. So here we go. Okay, so now I'll just have to do that 9 more times, I think. all in and assembled, and it actually worked. I'm surprised. That last shelf up on the very top was a little bit tricky. I had to figure out exactly how to stick it in. Actually, I had to take it in diagonal this way and up and over. So those are the type of things that kind of freak you out. You're not quite sure you can build something in a space. But it just seemed to work out. So just a little bit of light sanding, wipe it down. My tabletop here, my natural edge countertop has just a little bit of a smiley face in it, so I'm getting a little bit of a rock, but I guarantee you once we put some canned goods on there, it's going to take that rock out of there. So we'll let gravity take its course there. One thing we did need, there's always been a light fixture in this pantry, and when I wired the house, I don't know why I didn't put a switch on it. I just thought, well, a light fixture, usually going to use a pull chain and something like that. So I've gone through like 3 pull chains, and I don't know if I've got cheap pull chains that I'm buying or Kelly and the boys are swinging off them like Tarzan vines, but they keep busting. So I decided, well, let's see what else we have. So utilizing a little bit of technology here, I found this pretty cool thing on Amazon, and it's a remote. So it's a little disc here that can be screwed or attached to the wall, to the drywall maybe, wherever you want it, and then of course magnetically the remote actually sticks to it. So I can put that here right inside the closet, screw it to the side of the panel. Right now we just had it stuck on the refrigerator, which is right here beside the camera. But it works pretty well. It takes one of those little nickel-sized batteries, the ones that are shaped like a coin. That's the only downside. Those things are kind of a drag, but they seem to last a long time. But it works pretty well. It's a little remote access there. I'll post a link below in the video description to our Amazon link for this if you guys want to check that out. It wasn't that expensive. I think it was less than 20 bucks. So we'll wait for the missus to get home, let her give it her final inspection and thumbs up, and then we'll start moving stuff in. So the project's done to the point that you've moved a lot of stuff in. And so what do you think? Is it providing enough room for you?
I am so excited. There is so much more space in the pantry than what we had before. So yes.
Yeah.
Job well done.
Yeah, actually, don't you love it when a plan comes together? It actually worked. So yeah, so no longer do we have to contend with something like this that was kind of inferior to what we were trying to use. It wasn't a good allocation of space. It just wasn't very sturdy, and of course the other wire shelves were very loose and other issues there. But we've now not only been able to put everything that we've had in there, but you've been able to move stuff out of other areas, right?
Yeah, I've been able to clear off some counter space and move some of the bigger items, small appliances, into the pantry, which is really nice.
Yeah, and again, it's really tough to obviously shoot a video of this because it's like trying to shoot a closet, so you guys will have to just take our word for it as far as seeing how roomy it is. But we've been able to get some canned goods in there, been able to get our dry goods, our appliances, some key things there, and we still have a lot of space left. If I would say shelf space wise, maybe we've used 60% of it. You have to be tall to reach some of those higher ones. But yeah, so we probably have 40% more space left that we can fill. Now this obviously just shows us that it's time to start building the cellar when it comes to real storage space for canned goods. As we do more of that, then we realize we're going to max this out soon, so we'll have to put the cellar on the list.
Add it to the projects.
Yeah, perfect. Anything else?